We'll start off chapter 2 by going through nouns and adjectives. This is really going through the content of chapter 2 now. And I put these together because these two parts of speech work together. Now, most people understand nouns as persons, places, or things. That's an okay definition, but quite honestly it's half true and really half not so true. Really also nouns include things like ideas, characteristics, and activities. Now, when you were first learning about parts of speech, that definition of persons, places, or things is very good, because in most cases when you're learning about parts of speech first, you're learning it in grammar school or elementary school, and you're really reading stories about people doing things and animals doing things and stuff like that, very concrete stuff, fiction stories, which is great. When you get to college and university work, you're dealing more in abstractions, ideas, concepts, how things work, other things. In economics, it's often about ideas and theories about how things work. In mathematics, there's a great deal of abstractions. In all fields, there is an enormous amount of abstractions. It's not that the nouns go away, the nouns are slightly different at the university and college level. You're dealing more with ideas and characteristics and activities. So really in the end there's two basic types of nouns. The concrete nouns, which really you don't need me to teach you about. Almost all of you, I'm sure, knew about these nouns before you came into the class. You know that a puppy is a noun, a sidewalk's a noun, and a computer's a noun. You already knew that. The nouns that provide challenges, especially for new college students, are the abstract nouns. Many students have a hard time with these. These are words such as liberty, or kindness, or cooking. This is really the second half of the definition. These are the ideas, characteristics, and activities. All of these words, liberty, kindness, and cooking, can be nouns. Oftentimes, and this is part of what's challenging about doing chapter 2 without chapter 3, the part of speech as a noun can be determined by its function within the sentence. That's why a word like cooking, many people look at it and think, oh, it's got ing on the end, it must be an action. Sometimes. Sometimes it can actually be a noun, and sometimes it can even be an adjective. It's going to depend upon its function within the sentence. For now, I just want you to know that activities can be nouns. Cooking could be a noun. Okay? Cooking can be a hobby or something like that. It's an activity you undertake. Kindness would describe something that's quite abstract, but it can be a noun. It really can be. Kindness wins you many friends. In that case, it's a noun functioning as the subject. So kindness can, but people have a hard time identifying it. A word like speed can be a noun. Okay? So these can be nouns. And then ideas such as liberty, freedom, oppression, things like that are abstract, but they are nouns, just like chairs, computers, and windows are, but they're just a different type of noun. But all of them fall into the context of being nouns. So when you go through the drills on nouns, you're going to have an easy time getting down the concrete nouns. Give yourself a little more time and be a little more patient with the abstract ones. Once you get these down and get good at identifying them in the exercises, you will have nouns down. It will make an enormous difference with learning the other parts of speech and learning how these function. So be a little patient with yourself if you're not as good with abstract nouns. It might take a little more time, it might take a little more practice, but you can get these down too. If you've already got those down as nouns, you're in great shape. Okay? So abstract nouns are where the difficulty lies with nouns, but they are just as much nouns as the concrete ones are. So what you were taught about nouns probably in elementary school and in junior high school, really they never really teach abstract nouns until you get to high school, and then you assume you already know that they're concrete. Well, be careful with that. The abstract nouns create the problems for most folks. Okay? Adjectives. Adjectives are a little bit easier to define, but they have an extremely important function. I'm going to give you a somewhat limited discussion of them now, and then we're going to come back to these later on. And you're going to see that adjectives are quite interesting when you get to the different types of language, when you get into phrases and clauses. For now, go ahead and think of them as you always have as single words, but they can be whole phrases and they can be clauses. We will come back to that. But for now, they are pretty much the words that modify nouns. Okay? That's what they do. When people have trouble with adjectives, it's usually confusing them with adverbs. Just keep in mind the add means to, and you might think of the jacked in here as being something added to an object. So this is to some kind of object. That's one way to keep it down, or keep the distinction down in memory. So that's what they do, is modify nouns. Now, when they are single words, and you might be confused right now thinking, well, when are they not? We will come back to them. They can be whole phrases and clauses. We will come back to that. But when they're a single word, they come in front of their noun. That's what they do. Okay? So they always come in front of the noun, right before it. And they create something. Now, this is extremely important. And this is extremely important for this approach to grammar that I'm going to give you, and it's extremely important to understand how you think about language, because what an adjective creates immediately is a noun phrase. It's a noun phrase. They create a noun phrase in your mind. And this is the first time we're not talking so much about words, but about phrases. And so, for example, when you have blue car, which is an example of an adjective, blue, modifying car. Blue car. The adjective comes in front of the car. Okay? There will be exceptions to this. We'll come to those later. For now, just learn this approach, and we'll come back to it. So, but in your mind, you don't think of blue as distinct from the car. In your mind, you put blue car as one single unit. And this is extremely important, because forever, or throughout that sentence, you're going to always keep blue car as one unit in your mind, and it's going to operate together. That is the first type of phrase I want you to get down, which is a noun phrase. And then if you think of the next type of word, of wonderful kindness. The principal of the school demonstrated a wonderful kindness for the students. I hope you had a nice principal, but I didn't. But anyway, she demonstrated a wonderful kindness for the students. Wonderful is modifying kindness. Kindness is the noun. Wonderful is modifying kindness. In the end, that's a noun phrase. That's a single unit. That's the first type of phrase I want you to get down, which is a noun phrase. And then another one, which is Italian cooking. Italian cooking is my favorite type of cooking. Okay, Italian cooking makes people happy, whatever. Pizzas are an example of Italian cooking. In that case, cooking is a noun, and Italian is modifying cooking. That's what it's doing. It's creating a noun phrase. Italian cooking is a noun phrase, and in our minds, it's a single unit. So that's what I want you to understand about nouns and adjectives. Really, in the end, they work together. They work together to create noun phrases. That's what they do. Okay? So in the end, they create a new type of unit, which is the noun phrase, which is going to function as a single unit throughout a piece of writing, throughout your speaking, throughout everything. Because you don't really separate them. You don't think of cooking as distinct from Italian cooking once that phrase is used. You think of them as one unit once they're put together. They really can't be separated now. They're one unit in your mind once they're put together in that sentence. So they create that first phrase. Okay? So that's what I want you to get down with this. Make sure you take a little bit more time with the abstract nouns and you're good with them. And then just realize that adjectives come in front of the noun and they create a noun phrase. If you can get those skills down, you're in good shape with these first two parts of speech. Okay?